Hello everyone, welcome back to Med with K. So today we are going to talk about some few things that nobody tells you before choosing your medical college. Make sure you stay till the end because these things they will define your next 5.5 years of your MBBS journey. So let's begin with the first one. So the first point is to check that is the college officially approved. So NMC is the government body that controls all the medical colleges in India. Some colleges they only have the permission to start. Now this permission to start is temporary. It is not permanent. And in the past, there have been cases where some colleges have lost their approval while students were still studying there. So you need to go for colleges that have a permanent approval. Now, in this case, you cannot trust your counselors or even the college's own office. What you need to do is, you need to go to the NMC website yourself, search the college name and check its current status with your own eyes. Coming to the second point, which is how many patients will you actually see? So here's something very important that most people often ignore, which is how many real patients visit the hospital attached to the college every day. So a college which is attached to a small hospital which is not that running cannot give the same learning as one attached to a big busy hospital. Because you learn medicine by seeing real patients, not just from books. So whenever you visit the college, ask one simple question. How many patients come to the OPD every day and how full are the hospital beds usually? So if the college gives the well answer, then you know, okay, that this hospital has a footfall and you can actually see patients over there. But if the college can't answer this clearly, that itself tells you something. Coming to the third point, are there enough teachers to teach you? So again, before proceeding with this point, I would like to tell you that teachers play a good role in your MBBS, but almost 80 to 85% of your learning is done by you only. Teachers are there for that 15% and MBBS is a course where you have to push yourself. Nobody is going to serve things on a platter. So coming back to this point, a nice college brochure will show you photos of senior professors, but it won't tell you if half of them are actually guest teachers or are they full-time employed. So now these guest teachers, they only come twice a month and so. So what you can do is, you can check the minimum number of teachers NMC requires for that college's student intake. Then you can talk to your current students directly and not the college office and ask the current students that if the teachers are actually present and teaching regularly. Now this mix-up of teachers or these guest teachers, they happen mostly in preclinical subjects, which is your anat, physio, biochem, path, pharma, micro. The fourth point is language and location. So this one is often ignored, but it matters a lot. Now, if you don't understand the local language, then talking to the patients becomes very difficult. And in the later years, which is your second year and your third year and your final year, most of your learning happens by talking to the patients. So a very good college in a place where you don't understand the language can actually slow down your learning. Also thinking about simple practical things. How far is the college from your home? And what is the weather like there? And can you survive there for 5.5 years? Can you regularly visit home? Can your family manage being away from you for 5+ years with only occasional visits? So keep these thoughts in your mind before you choose because it indirectly or sometimes directly impacts your performance over there. Coming to the fifth point,
which is hostel safety and ragging.
So before finalizing any college, search online for the college name along with the word ragging. Now every college claims to have a strict anti-ragging policy on paper, but not all of them are actually followed. So try to speak to a senior student from that exact college and ask honestly. And especially if it's a female student joining, specifically ask about the hostel safety, gate timings, and how the college has handled any past complaints. Coming to point 6 is what will it really cost? So let me tell you, the fee which is shown on the website is almost never the full and the final amount. Apart from the tuition fee, there are also other fees like the hostel fees, mess fees, food fees, etc. And also when you give your final exams, there are exam fees. And if you get a supply in your final exams, then also you have to give another fees to sit in the supply. And some colleges, they also charge the uniform fees, equipment costs. Then if some colleges, there are very few, but if some colleges, they provide NEET PG coaching, then they charge extra for that. So you should keep in mind that you need to ask these questions also when you go visit your college. Coming to the next point, which is one of the most important points, is that what happens in the internship year. So this is something almost nobody thinks about at 18 years old. But the last year of the MBBS, which is known as the internship, decides how ready you will be for the further studies and for real medical practice. So in colleges which is attached to busy hospitals, you should ask that if the interns over there actually get to do hands-on work, like stitching wounds or assisting in surgery. And in some smaller colleges, interns mostly just watch from a distance or handle paperwork. So try to ask an alumnus, someone who has already finished, what their internship year was really like. Because this internship year is really important for you to get practical exposure. So make sure you choose a college which is ready to give you that practical exposure. Now, related to this practical exposure, let me tell you that there are some colleges which do not even allow students to perform dissection. Like in my college, we can perform dissection, we get our own scalpel blades and then we can dissect. So basically, we are a group of students and we have enough cadavers to perform dissection. Like it's a good ratio. But I know in some colleges which have a strength of 250, they only have 5 cadavers and they're not even allowed to touch it. The teacher dissects and they make them show it. DH matters. So I would also want you to consider this point that you are allowed to do dissection over there because you get to learn a lot when you yourself do a dissection. Coming to the next point, which is how many students actually pass each year. So you need to check how many students from that college have passed the university exams in the last 3 to 5 years, subject by subject if possible. So a college where a lot of students consistently fail or struggle in a subject like anatomy or pathology may have a teaching problem, not just difficult students. So this information is often available on the university website or from alumni groups, and it is one of the most honest signs of teaching quality. Then the next point is about, does your college have simulation labs, library, and internet access? So ask specifically if the college has a skill lab, because it is where the students practice basic procedures on mannequins or models before trying them on real patients. And now this is mandatory by NMC. Also check if the library has updated textbooks and access to medical journals, and check that if there's a proper Wi-Fi and online study access, and if there is a e-library, because a lot of exam preparation today depends on digital sources, not just physical books. The next point is you need to understand the bond before you sign. So many colleges, especially the government ones, come with something called a bond. This means that after finishing MBBS, the student must serve a certain number of years in a government hospital or pay a penalty amount instead. So please read this document carefully before accepting the seat and not after. You should know the exact number of years, the exact penalty amount, and whether it affects the student's ability to study further right after MBBS. Coming to the next point, which is, do seniors help you with the juniors? So a college where a senior student actively guides and helps juniors, like sharing notes, explaining tough topics, warning about difficult teachers, marking questions for the examination, makes a real difference in how smoothly the course goes. Now, I won't say that this is mandatory, but it is an extra bonus and it's good to have it. So try to speak with both the juniors and seniors of the college you are trying to join. The next part is the daily life, travel and food. So this might sound like a small thing, but it affects daily life for years. Like, is the campus within walking distance of the hospital or the market, or is transport needed every day? Is the hostel food actually good enough to eat regularly, or will extra money be needed to be spent on outside food often? So none of these alone are big issues, but together, in culmination, they affect a student's energy and focus over time. Now coming to the last point is, what if you want to change colleges later? So lastly, understand the rules about upgrading your seat during counseling and about transferring or migrating to another college later if truly needed. So some states make it easy to upgrade to a better seat in the next counseling round. Others don't allow much flexibility once you accept a seat. So with this, I end the video. If you found this video helpful, then please share it with other people so that it can help them also. Please choose the best college for yourself, and all the best.